We've been blessed here at Executive Career Upgrades to work with a transitioning veteran right now, making about $75K a year. We got him a job making $120 for another contracting group. We've also recently helped a academy grad. He spent 20 years in the Air Force, graduated from the Air Force Academy. Now he is a COO of a manufacturing company. Never been in manufacturing before. Some people, military, when they transition, some people want to go to corporate America and some people want to stay in consulting. What most people don't realize, military veterans have so many skills. What's wild is they don't think they have any. And what's crazy is if you're a veteran watching this, I believe it's 86% of veterans that get out of the military that did 20 years. So we're talking about 20-year veterans that get out and they're in their first corporate job. 86% leave within the first 12 months.
Like anything in life, you become used to your environment. You become comfortable with a certain type of environment. And when you make that transition, it's kind of like those of you that were deployed. You're in that environment for a year. You become used to some of those things. Your family also gets used to you not being there. And it's a very difficult transition to come back and start to reintegrate in with the family. It's the same thing in your career. If you've only known the military or you've been in the military more than you've been out of the military, it can be a difficult transition to how do I translate what I did? I'm in artillery. A lot of the terms that we use, we have what we call military jargon. We call different acronyms. We live on acronyms in the military, and it's very common communication within the military so that everybody understands. If you try to come out and talk that way to a civilian that hasn't served in the military, doesn't really understand, it gets lost. And one thing that we really teach for me, working with clients day in and day out, it is how to effectively communicate. It is how to make sure that we clearly get across the value that we can bring. And if we fail to do that, if we can't translate what we did in the military to civilian.
All employers right now, regardless of what you do, right, of where you work, they value discipline, leadership, and critical problem-solving skills, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, which we have had to do many times. How'd you get your first job, man?
When I got out 2013 from active duty, that was a time, I know it was after 2008, a lot of companies had this push to really hire veterans. And so I was really excited. I had a bachelor's degree already. I was working on my master's degree on my MBA. And I had run a couple $1 million companies before from an operations GM kind of standpoint, business development. So I felt like I had a good background. I had just served 2 combat tours, 5 years active duty. I was like, I've got a lot to offer. And so I went out and I said, well, this is going to be easy. I didn't have the skills that I have now. I don't even know if LinkedIn was around then. It was difficult. I came in and I applied online. I saw a job. I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that. That would be cool. And so I applied. I applied to over 50 different companies, 50 different applications, didn't get one phone call back. I'm sure that there's some of you listening that have probably felt that you've been in that same position as well. And it's just the reality. Even back then, it really came down to who you knew. It came down to networking. It came down to the applying online. While it can work from time to time, it really is not your most effective way. I think right now it's like less than 4% of people that apply online actually land their role because of that, where it's more around 85% it's due to networking. It's because of people that you talk to. And the higher a level you go, the networking and who you know and the trust factor and those kind of things really play such a huge part. I found an opportunity where I applied online still. That's all I knew. Due to having the veteran status, they kind of had to interview me. But when I knew I was going to have that interview, I said, okay, I need to get some help and some support because I really want to get this role. So I got with a good friend of mine, had him look at my resume, and that's where it was very eye-opening to me, to where when I looked at that and what was there, it made total sense to me. This is what I did. And I had a lot of the acronyms, a lot of the military jargon in there I was very proud of what I did there. It didn't translate to someone that had not served in the military. So a friend of mine helped me really rewrite that resume. I got the support that I needed to kind of rewrite it in the right way. And then I also got some help on kind of interview skills. So I got some help with people that were senior leaders that I knew and said, hey, can you help walk me through? I've got this interview coming up. I'd like to be prepared.
The good news is there's a process to do anything in life. If you're struggling in your marriage, there's tactics and strategies out there. If you're struggling with your finances, if you're struggling with fitness, with diet, if you're struggling to get a job. I was doing what everyone else says, which is, I paid to have my resume updated, and I was just applying like hundreds of times. So man, it was very stressful for me specifically, because I'm transitioning, changing my whole life. Man, I was struggling so bad. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I didn't know what to do. I was fearful. I was not reaching out to other military veterans. I did not have a support group. I didn't have anything. I was just trying to, hey, I'm a military vet. I'm going to figure everything out on my own. And I realize now that's like the worst thing you could possibly do, which is one of the reasons why I continue to stay in recruiting and coaching and advisement. And we have executive career upgrades now, is because, man, I've been there, done that. And it was a very difficult time in my life. I know for sure that some of you have stayed at companies for a decent amount of time, and sometimes 20 years, and then you want to transition into that next company. It is the biggest culture shock possible. When you do something for so long and you're in a routine and you're just like, it's done.
I totally relate. When I ended up landing the role that I landed and getting that support, that was after 3 months of going through exactly what you did. Going, I don't have the help. I don't have the support. I don't know exactly what to do. It was like going online and trying to see, hey, what do I do? What do I do here? I mean, it was that helpless feeling, like, what am I going to do? I've got a family I've got to take care of. I've got all these skills and I've got to find something. And now you start to, from a mindset standpoint, you're like, well, I'm just going to take anything. And you kind of fall down to like, well, I'll just go back to what I don't want to do, but I know how to do, and I'll just do that.
How are you going to get to somewhere you've never been without a map, without a flashlight, without someone holding your hand, without a squad leader who says, follow me? It's
like being blindfolded, spun around, and then handed a dart and say, hey, here, hit the bullseye. You don't even know where the target is. You don't know how to get there. So when you get that assistance, when you get that help, it is such a stress relief. And that's definitely what I've learned. It's not just that I do this every day and get the opportunity to help people, land that next move, but I know what it was like when I finally reached out and got a little bit of help. It was such a stress relief. It was like, okay, thank goodness I finally have the support that I need. I have somebody that's helping me, and it got me what I needed to be able to move forward. And I think it's so important that when you're in a situation like that, I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to do, to really set yourself up for success.
But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, most veterans struggle with, number one, they don't know any of the tactics, right? And number two, they don't even know where to start. What am I going to do? I've been shooting big guns for 20 years, or I've been an infantry officer, or I was a ranger, or I was a transportation, but they get out and they're like, hey, I don't know what I want to do.
I always say, put that lighthouse on the hill. You've got to have that goal. What is it that I want to do? And there's some research that needs to go into that. We have some things that we send our clients through, different exercises, different questions. We have talks with them. We break things down to really find out, what is it that you would really enjoy doing? Did you enjoy the leadership aspect? Did you enjoy the operations? Did you enjoy bringing order to chaos? Well, operations might be good for you. Did you enjoy the training and developing of the soldiers? Well, maybe a training and development role might be good for you.
And it's critical to understand what skills, what attributes that are in demand, how does that align with my strengths and interests? How can I brand that? Communicating the experience, my military experience, on how it directly relates on the civilian side. That is where a lot of people struggle. And they get into fear of the unknown, question themselves, self-sabotage when they're met with a little bit of rejection. So remember, you have to be strong on your purpose. Why are you doing something? Why are you going up to this new level? Why do you want to be? You have to be strong on your purpose. If you're not, you'll quit. So to all the military veterans that listen to this episode in the coming years, what is your next purpose? Hey, you're done with the military. You proudly served our country. What's next for you? Is it to do a job that's fun?
Last thing I want to say is that understand that transition is not just for you too, as you're transitioning with your family as well. So make sure you sit down with your family, talk to them about some of the strategies, some of the stresses that you might go through, and ask them to support you as you go through. I think that's just have that internal support right there at home will really help you as you transition as well. So
we hope this helped you, of just sharing a little bit about our experience, some of our recommendations, something you can do early, right, to kind of not have to deal with the craziness that we dealt with. So, hey, I hope this helps. Until next week, everyone, have a great week.